All right, we are live now. Hello and welcome everybody. This is your friend Rashmi from Designhill. I hope you guys are doing fantastic and staying safe. I would love to know where you're joining us from, so let me know that in the chat section. Um, so today's event is brought to you by Designhill, which is the world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. Today, we are going to talk about how to buy and protect your perfect domain name. We have an amazing guest speaker with us today. We have Gvidas Maskoliunas. Gvidas, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correct. If not, you can just correct me over there. So he is a growth hacking and social media marketing specialist. Right now, he spends most of his time as an instructor at Hostinger Academy. He teaches people on how to create their website using WordPress. He also has some courses on Udemy, Bitch Degree, and Skillshare. Gvidas, first of all, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us today for this session. Please go ahead and say hi to the audience.
Hi, how are you guys? Thank you for the great introduction. I couldn't have said better myself.
Great. So here are quick updates for everyone before we start the session. You can take the screenshot of this event and tweet about it. Use hashtag Designhill events, tag DesignhillDH and Hostinger. The Twitter handle will be in the chat. My team member Nidhi will be sharing that. And one lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. So make sure you do that and you don't skip on this opportunity to win a $50 print shop gift card. All the information is in the chat. Also, we will be providing certificates to the event attendees. So make sure you stay with us till the end. Along with that, as a gesture of appreciation that you could join us for this event, we will be sharing an exclusive coupon code with you, which by using you can get 15% off on Designhill Logo Maker service. All these information will be shared in the chat section at the end of the session. So make sure you stay till the end and avail all these offers from us. All right, so that was quick updates for everyone. So before we start the session, let's quickly look at what Designhill is all about.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Designhill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash of my meetings. With everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
All right, that was all about Designhill, and now we are all set to start the session. We will be taking questions as well at the end of the session, so make sure you put all your questions in the question section. Also, my team member Nidhi will be rolling out few polls in between, so make sure you answer to those polls as well. All right, Gvidas, over to you.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I'm very excited. All right, so I guess I'm gonna start with the presentation. So that's why I'm here. Okay, I'm just gonna select it. And all right, and sorry about that. This is not the first slide. Yeah, this is the first one. All right, so I'm Gvidas. I work at Hostinger, as you already know, so that's all you need to know. But let's move on to the next one. All right, so today in this webinar, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about domain names. So as you probably already know, you're going to learn about the domains itself. I'm going to share with you a short introduction to the domain names. I'm going to explain you how to choose your domain name, how to claim it, how to choose it itself, the best tips, the best practices that we teach other people. And the last thing you're gonna learn how to protect your domain name from spam. So yeah, all right. So let's go with the first section. So I'd like to start by explaining the structure of domain name. I don't know if you are very familiar with domain names. Maybe you have a domain name already, or maybe you don't have one yet. But this is the structure, and the structure looks like that. So as you can see in the first two sections, we got protocol and subdomain. So the protocol is HTTPS, or it can be HTTP. If it's HTTPS, that means a website has a SSL certificate and connection is secure. And right here, subdomain level, we have www. As you probably remember, in the past, it used to be very popular to use www so that people understand that we are talking about the website, not just about a word or the phrase. So, and in the last two steps, parts of the domain name is domain name and the top level domain, or TLD. So when you are purchasing a domain name, you basically are buying the last two sections. This is the domain. So the actual domain which you would purchase, let's say from Hostinger or anywhere else, would be hostinger.com or yourdomain.com, .net, or any other. So, all right, let's move on to the next section. All right, right here, I want to show you the types of top-level domains, or like domain extensions, the endings. As you probably know, some of the most popular are .com, .org, .net. So right here on the left side, the first column says GTLD. That it stands for global top-level domain. So those are the most popular ones usually. Those are global. So we have .com, .org, .net. And in the second column, we have CCTLD. It stands for country code top-level domain. So I don't know where you're from. As I can see, a lot of people are. Some people are from Philippines. Others are from other places. So as you probably already know, in your country you have your own TLD. All right. As I can see, someone is from Pakistan. So yeah. So like I said. Each country has its own top-level domain. So, for example, France has FR, Russia has RU, Germany has DE. Yeah, and those are usually used when you are creating a website or project in your own language. And then the last column right here, we have a new top-level domain. So those are the new ones. They are quite new, and they are getting popular each day. They are getting popular, more and more popular. More and more people are using them. So, for example, as you can see, the most popular one among new top-level domains is XYZ. People say that in the future it's gonna get very popular. It might get even more popular than .com. I'm not sure about that, but as you can see, those are new top-level domains. Actually, there are plenty of them. Just today, I checked. In total, there are almost 1,600 top-level domains. So it can be .bear, .dog. I have seen some other, like an adult niche. There are plenty of different top-level domain names, and yeah, so those are the new ones. And on the right side of the slide, you can see the most popular ones. So like I said, .com is the most popular one. It says that it has around 47% of websites are using .com. So that's quite popular. Actually, it's very popular. Almost half of the websites are using .com. And as you can see in the second place, we have .org. .ru, which is Russian, .net, and the German one. So yeah, those are top-level domains. There are plenty of them. Usually it's up to you which one you would like to choose, but I'm gonna explain you a little bit more about this process, which top-level domain you should choose. All right, let's move on. And choosing the right top-level domain. All right, so first of all, when you are choosing top-level domain or the extension or the ending of your domain, first you should consider who is your audience. Is this audience could be a global audience? If it's going to be targeted to a specific country, so for example, if you are planning to have a website which is targeting global audience, maybe the best option would be to go with .com. If it's not available, maybe the second best option would be to go with .net. That's usually how it works. That's usually how I do it myself. If .com is not available, I usually go with .net. But if your audience is like specific country, let's say France, you should choose FR. You should choose your own top-level domain, which belongs to your country, and especially if you're planning to write content in that particular language. So when that's the case, you should choose CCTLD, so country code top-level domain. And the last thing which you should consider, availability of domain. So that's quite simple. Like I said before, if you have an idea for a certain domain name and you want it to be a .com, let's say funkydogs.com, and this domain is taken, so the next best option would be to check if .net is available, and then you can choose .net if it's available. This is how I usually do it myself, and this is how I usually recommend others to do. All right, so let's move on to the next section. All right, so right here I would like to talk a bit more about pros and cons of country code TLDs, because there are some pros and there are some cons. So if you're gonna use a country code TLDs, for example, the TLD of your country. In my case, I'm from Lithuania. I would have to use .lt. So if I would use for my project, for my website .lt, people would understand that I'm talking to them. People would understand that this website is targeted to Lithuanians if I'm using .lt. So they have a clear understanding that this website is targeted to that particular audience. As well, that structure of domain name, which has CCTLD, so like I said, .lt, I'm going to use the same example. So it gives, this structure of domain name gives the sign to search engines that this particular website is targeting specific country. So because of that, you're going to rank higher. So let's say in Google search results. So for example, if I'm going to give an example, I have two websites. They have the same domain. For example, gvidasblog.com, and I have the second one, gvidasblog.lt. I'm writing, both blogs are written in Lithuanian, and the bigger chances are that the one with LT is going to be shown in higher position than the website which has .com. Because obviously .com is targeted to global audience, and .lt is targeted to a particular audience, which is Lithuanians. And in some markets, like I said, local CCTLDs perform better than non-localized. So yeah, and in extreme cases, only those particular TLDs are shown. So for example, it could be China. Let's use China as an example. Oh, I forgot their search engine, but how it's called. They have their own search engine. Maybe I'm just a little bit nervous and I forgot about it. But you see, they only show results with top level domain that is CN, which is China's for China's top level domain. So in some extreme cases, they only. Yeah, Baidu. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Guste. That's what I forgot. All right. So the cons of using this, of using country code TLDs, the cons would be it can it can be quite expensive. As far as I know, for example, if you would try to register a domain name which has TLD.PR, which is for Puerto Rico, for 1 year you would pay around about $1,000. So in some cases it can be very expensive. And the last con is that it might not rank in other nations using the same language. So for example, Portuguese. All right, in Brazil, people talk Portuguese, and if you have a domain name which ends with .br, yeah, Brazil, and it's not gonna show up, let's say, in Portugal or other countries where the same language is used. So that's the downside of using country code top level domains. All right, let's move on. All right, ways to go to choose the right domain name. I usually do it myself. I usually say that there are 2 ways to choose the right domain name. The first one is domain name has some type of meaning, and the second one is domain just sounds nice. You know, just sounds nice. It just clicks. You just like it, and this is the second way to go. All right, so I'm going to show you some examples. All right, Veritas. For example, there's a website called veritas.com, and there's another website which is called projectveritas.com. And the Veritas is the goddess of truth. So basically, this domain name has a deeper meaning. And the difficulty of such type of domain name is that it's kind of difficult to find them available, because especially if you're trying to find the domain name which ends with .com, it might be very frustrating, and some people like to go with hyphens in between the words. They like to do that stuff, or they like to add numbers. Don't do that. So in a lot of cases, those domain names are taken, so you're gonna have a difficult time finding them. And like I said, it might take longer time to come up with that certain domain name, like Project Veritas. If you are trying to make your domain name with a deep meaning, it might take more time to come up with it. All right, the second example is Zyro. So Zyro is a website builder, and as far as I know, it doesn't have a very big, deeper meaning behind it. It just sounds nice, it just clicks, it's catchy, it's simple, and when you're not focused on the meaning part of your domain name, you have more flexibility. Let's be honest, you're gonna have more flexibility, and it's gonna be way easier to come up with that domain name. Of course, you're gonna have to spend some time to think up of something catchy that clicks straight away, but it's gonna be way easier than trying to come up with a domain name that has some kind of a deeper meaning. So yeah, all right, let's move on. All right, so right here I'm gonna show you some tips. Those are the same tips I always tell others when people are interested in domain names, when they want to find their perfect domain. We have some videos on Hostinger Academy which are around those 9 tips. So, all right, let's start with the first tip. And the first tip is going to be, do your research, all right? You might have some kind of idea that there's a particular domain name which you would like to use. And when you look it up, you look it up using, let's say, domain name checker, you find out that this domain name is taken. All right, you go back to your drawing board, you try to come up with different variation of your domain name, and eventually you find out that this domain name is like a keyword, and you can rank for it, you know, in search engine. So if a particular domain name is like a keyword and it's free, that's fantastic. Once your website gets a little bit more established, it gets well established, so after some time you will be able to rank for that certain keyword because you have this domain name. And yeah, this way you're gonna get some free traffic. I did the same with one of my website, which ranks for the one keyword. I guess I'm not gonna tell the one, right, which website is that, but yeah, it's Catastic. Yeah, that's called Catastic. I don't want to advertise too much. All right, let's move on. All right, the second one, make it easy to remember. Like I said, it's like with an example of Zyro.com. It's easy to remember, it's catchy, it's simple, and it got that thing. This domain has that thing, and it's easy to remember. So make it easy to remember. If you're gonna have to spend a lot of time coming up with a easy domain name, don't worry about that. Just make it easy to remember, because let's say somebody finds your website and that person thinks that you have a really cool website. No matter what type of website is that, it could be a blog, it could be an online store or whatever, and that person thinks that your domain name is, yeah, cool, and he would like to let his friends know about your website, if he's gonna have a difficult time remembering your website, guess what? He's gonna have a difficult time letting his friends know about your website. So that's quite important as well. All right, let's move on to the next tip. All right, it's not a tip. I just thought it would be nice to include some interesting things in between the tips. So did you know that Facebook.com, it used to be the Facebook.com? Have you heard about that? So which version do you think is better? Do you think that if the Facebook stayed the same, like the Facebook.com, it would be as popular as now? That's something interesting to think of. So to think about. All right, let's move on to the next tip. And the third tip is go with .com if possible. Obviously, because it's the most popular top-level domain. Like I said, around 47%. Andrew said something. I just started looking in the chat. So, all right, I'm just gonna continue. So, like I said, like majority of websites, like 47% of websites around the globe are using .com. So, if you're gonna decide to go with .com, you'll never miss anything. The downside of it is that a lot of domain names with .com are already taken, and you're gonna have a quite difficult time to coming up with something new, something that hasn't been registered yet. So try it yourself. Go to a domain checker on Hostinger and see how many free available domain names are. You can come up with any type of name, and if it's gonna be a domain name with .com, most likely it's already taken. All right, let's move on. Trademark infringement. All right, check for trademark infringement. It's not extremely dangerous, let's put it this way, but let's say if you're gonna decide to use a domain name which is very similar to well-established brands, which sounds very similar, you might get trademark infringement. So let's not do that. Let's not try to copy others. So if you are not sure if you are infringing any trademark or anything, you can check with a trademark checkers. You can find them on Google. So yeah, later on once your website starts to grow bigger and bigger, you can always register your own trademark. So yeah, this way you will protect your domain, not just domain name, but the name of your website, of the company as well. So that's something to think of. All right, let's move on to the next. Avoid numbers and hyphens. So this is quite important. Like I mentioned before, a lot of domain names that has .com, they are already taken. So let's say people like to use hyphens in between the words. Let's say if a domain name has 2 words in it, it could be, I don't know, cooltable, cooltable.com. And I'm 100% sure that this domain name is already taken. And a lot of people would use a hyphen in between those 2 words. And actually, it's bad practice because it's very confusing. And yeah, even other people gonna have a difficult time letting their friends know about your website if there's a hyphen in between the words. And the same goes with numbers. All right, so let's say you have a domain name. Let's use the same example, cooltables001.com. All right, so or let's say cooltables0.com. If the person wants to know, if the person wants to let his friend know about your website, he might get confused if it's a 0 in words, or it's a 0 in letters, or it's just a number 0. So try avoiding numbers and hyphens, especially hyphens in between the words. So that's quite important. All right, let's move on to the next line. Look for close alternatives. This one is also quite important because let's say there's a good example right here. So for example, there's a website, Amazon, and we all know Amazon, and very often it gets very often misspelled, and and people like to enter it like Amazon, yeah, .com. And guess what? Amazon registered that domain name, and it's pointing to their main website. Or let's say we could use Facebook as an example. Facebook.com has Facebook.com has registered the domain name the Facebook.com. So if you would type the Facebook.com, you would go to Facebook.com. And as you probably already know, if you would type fb.com, you would go to facebook.com. So if you see that your website, your domain name, sorry, not website, your domain name has some close alternatives and it's kind of easy to misspell it, you might want to consider registering alternatives as well. So that's quite important. But I usually like to suggest this tip when you don't really need to start registering those all domain names right away. Let's say you can register your main domain name, and after a while, when you see that your website is growing bigger and bigger, you start getting more and more traffic to your website, you could register other variations of that domain name that often misspelled or something similar. All right, let's move on to the next tip. All right, so better safe than sorry. It's not a tip, but it's a tip actually. Better safe than sorry. Never delay registering your domain name. All right, trust me. I did it once, and oh boy, I regret this so much because, like I said, I had the domain name which is Catastic. All right, so this project is like 4 years old. And I remember when I started it, it was almost 5 years ago. And when I started it, I was kind of starting out with all things of that project. I wasn't so sure which name should I choose, which domain should I get, and I was delaying everything. So I remember I checked if that domain name is available, and the Catastic.com, it was available. But for some reason, I decided to delay everything. I just thought, it's not going anywhere, okay? And like after 6 months, something like that, when I decided that, yeah, I should get that domain name and I should get hosting as well. And guess what? That domain name was already taken. And the worst thing is that it wasn't just taken. No one is using that domain name for their own project, all right? That domain name is parked and it's for sale. So once somebody registered that domain name, they listed it for sale. At first, it cost, the price was around $200. And even then, I said like, oh, it's just too much. I ain't gonna pay $200. And guess what? Just checked it yesterday, and now they are asking $2,000. So don't delay. If you have, if you feel like you have a good domain name, you have a good idea, never delay. Better register more domain names and never use them than not register and later on regret. So even though I made this mistake, from now on I don't do this mistake anymore. Every year I register like 2 to 3 or something like that domain names, and usually I have around 10 domain names. And right now I'm only using 3 of them, but it's better to have it than not to have it. All right. So let's go back to the tips. All right, research social media platforms. So once you register your domain name, obviously you want to create social media profiles for that website, for that domain name. So obviously never miss the chance. The same goes with social media platforms. You can be the first or you can be the last. If you are the second, you are the last already. So you apply the same rule with domain names and social media profiles. Don't miss the chance, otherwise you're gonna regret. All right, let's move on. Think future-proof. Think future-proof. Simple as that. So I'm gonna give you one example. For example, maybe you decided to open an e-commerce store and you are selling fidget spinners. Do you remember the hype for fidget spinners? All right. If you would create a website, fidgetspinners.com, something like that. Actually, it's a very good domain name. But over the time, the hype disappears. So instead of choosing the domain name, which is targeted directly into one specific narrow, very narrow niche, you could use other. Once the hype goes out, you're gonna have just a not so good. You're gonna have like domain name which it's not good at all. So don't do that. All right, next, discuss your ideas. Yeah, this is quite important. Let's say you have an idea and it sounds like a good idea already, but you feel like it's missing something. You can always talk to your friends. You can always discuss with your family about your project, that you are starting something. You can do a brainstorm session or something like that with your friends and try to come up with a awesome domain name. All right. So those are the 9 tips which I usually tell my friends, all the people. We even have some videos at Hostinger Academy purely based on those 9 tips. So those tips are like, I don't know, bulletproof. So yeah, use them. All right, let's go on. Protect yourself against spam. All right, this one is very important. If you want to protect yourself against the spam, you have to choose who is protection. You have to activate your privacy protection on your domain level. So for example, in the past, when I just started with my projects, when I started with creating websites, I remember I created one website, and for some reason I started getting a lot of spam emails. You know, my email box was filled with spam emails, and I couldn't figure out why those spam emails are coming to my inbox. I just couldn't figure this out. And all of those emails were mentioning my domain name. I was like, well, what's going on, you know? And after a while, I realized that if you don't choose the personal information protection, or let's say who is protection, you can get this protection when you're purchasing domain name, let's say at Hostinger, all right? You're purchasing domain name at Hostinger, and when you are in your shopping cart, you are in a checkout page, you can choose this option that you want to purchase personal information protection. And when you are registering your domain name, you will need to add your information. So your details, like your name, your last name, address, phone number, email address, all the details, because basically you are registering a property online. So you're going to need those details. You're going to need to add them. And if you are not protecting that information, if you're not using who's protection, then guess what? People can look it up. They can go online. They can use tools like Whois, and they can look up the information of your domain name. They can find your email address, your phone number, all the details, you know? So that's why when you're purchasing domain name, you should get Whois protection. For some domain name providers, they use it. They say that it's Whois protection. Others name it as personal information protection. Basically, something along the lines that it's a protection to protect your personal information. So I highly recommend you to get it if you are purchasing your domain name. All right, what else we got right here? And it seems like this is it. That's all. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this information was useful. And if you want to learn more about creating websites or other web hosting tutorials, I highly recommend you to check our Hosting Academy channel. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, first of all, Gvidas, for sharing all the insightful information. I was actually thinking about the mistakes that I have made, while I purchased my domain name, and I was able to relate all the points that you shared. So thank you so much for that. And I hope audience, all these information that have been shared by Gvidas, you have noted down all the points and you won't make the mistakes that people usually do. So thank you so much once again, but we have a lot more to cover. It's not the end, but before we do that, I would quickly like to give a quick shout out to Designhill for organizing this session. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Claromatics is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Designhill was an incredible lifeline. Designhill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Designhill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all of the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Designhill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
All right, it's time for Q&A. Gvidas, I have a few questions for you, and then we will also take the questions that live audience have asked us in the questions tab. So at the start of the session, you talked about SSL certificates, which is, people use WWWS, HTTPS, right?
Yeah.
So how important it is to to get those SSL certificates as compared to those who don't have it. So can you throw some more light on that?
I would say it's very important. It's extremely important because if you don't have SSL certificates, your website ain't gonna look very trustworthy, And in a lot of cases, you're gonna get SSL certificates for free. At Hostinger, with majority of hosting plans, you're gonna get SSL certificate for free, and you can use other free SSL certificates. So basically, this option to have an SSL certificate is always, in almost all cases, is free. So why not to have it? Especially when you have an online store. If you don't have SSL certificate and you have an online store, guess what? You're gonna lose a lot of customers. And I have heard like Google won't rank your website very high because you don't have a SSL certificate. So obviously the connection is not secure. The information which customers are entering to your website is not encrypted. And yeah, there's a huge thing of information, unprotected information happening, things, you can steal the information. So that's very important. I always say that if you can, always use SSL certificate.
All right. So the key takeaway for me here is A, it is free, so one should use it, and secondly, it also helps in ranking, in Google. So one should have the SSL certificates. All right. So Gvidas, also a few of the questions that we have received from the registration form was that how a lot of people depend upon free domain name and free hosting when it comes to having their own blog and having their own website. So what do you have to say to that? Why to use a paid version, a paid domain name, and a paid hosting instead of a free one?
Oh, I remember I used to be like that as well in the past. I used to use the free tools like Blogspot, Blogger, WordPress itself. But eventually I moved to paid domain names because guess what? You're creating your own brand identity, all right? If it's a personal blog, it's still nice to have your own blog with your own name, with your own domain name. And most importantly, it's going to help for SEO, so for search engine optimization. You're going to rank in the search engines. With a free domain names, you ain't going to have a lot of success unless you are promoting your blog or your website on social media or whatever. But I always recommend to get a paid domain name. This way you're just doing yourself a favor.
All right. And Gvidas, you also touched upon, when you were referring to your own example that the domain name that you wanted to buy, it was on sale and it was not actually available. So I am a bit intrigued about the fact that, okay, people can also put certain domain names on sale, and then, and somebody who is looking for that specific domain name, they will be buying the same on a much higher price, right, later.
Yeah.
So how does this whole process looks like? I mean, are there any specific platforms wherein people can sell the domain's name if they want to make probably some extra money, or if they don't need it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can sell domain names. A lot of domain names sell at very high prices, especially if you have, let's say, if you have a domain name tesla.com. I believe this domain name was sold for $5 million, something like that. And yeah, there are websites where you can sell domain names, where you can park them and sell them, list them for sale. You can even let's say you can even purchase a domain name, create a landing page, and say that this particular domain name is for sale. But I'm gonna be honest, in the past this used to work very well. If I'm not mistaking anything, it was like 15 years ago. I also tried this method to earn some money on the side. So I would buy a domain name. Back then there were like way more domain names available with the TLD.com. And nowadays, you're going to have a very difficult time to find that particular domain which would be something worth buying or whatever, But yeah, you can actually do this if you register a domain name and later on you decide that you don't want to start working on that project. You can list that domain for sale. You can park it and list it for sale. There are plenty of websites where you can sell your domain names. To be honest, I don't remember any of them, but you can use Google and you can find them. Just enter like domain names for sale, sell your domain name, or something in between those lines. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much for answering that. I see a lot of questions in the questions section, so let's take up all those questions and answer them. If you can also move to the question section to see what people are asking, that would be great. I will read out questions on the basis of most upvoted ones, and so that the audience also understand which question we are answering to. So Amit is asking a question which is in the bottom. My question is how to protect my website without buying any SSL certificate. I think we have touched upon that, but it would be great if you can answer that question again.
Yeah, actually, you don't need to buy SSL certificate. There are free options. You can get SSL certificate for free and you can install to your website. Yeah, you can do that. But if you don't really want to buy or you don't really want to use SSL certificate, let's say you have a WordPress website, you can install such plugin as WordFence. So yeah, there are other options, other alternatives, but I highly recommend you to get SSL certificate because with the SSL certificate, your website is gonna look more trustworthy. and most likely you're gonna rank higher in search engine results. So yeah, I highly recommend you to always use certificates SSL. Yeah.
All right, moving on with the next question. Andres has this question, and he is asking what to do if .com is already taken, but I am targeting English speaking countries. Should I go with TLD?
Which question is that? I cannot find.
It's again in the bottom, the fourth one, the fourth from
All
the.
right, all right. Is taken. Oh, yeah. You could go with TLD, which is just a second. Speak English, but I'm targeting English-speaking countries. You can use .net. It's always the second best option next to .com. Actually, I could give you a great example right here in Lithuania. There are quite a lot of popular websites that use .net, even though it's good for a global audience. Some people use it for their own country, for their own audiences, you know, and you can have really good results. So .net, I would say, is the second best option next to .com.
All right. Moving ahead, the next question is by Amit, and he is asking, let me just put it in the big notification. If we choose a domain name according to the profession, like I am a graphic designer and I choose .design, is it a good idea?
I would say it's not a bad idea. It's a good idea to use .design. Those are the new ones. To be honest, I use .pet myself, and I have a really good result. So I use Catastic.pet. Even though a lot of people say, "Oh, you're not using .com, and you ain't gonna get anything out of it," but it's ranking very well. I get a ton of organic traffic, and I don't have anything to complain about. So if you are a designer, if you are a professional designer, yeah, it might look even better, you know, .design. But again, you might want to consider .com, but it's actually a good idea, you know. There's nothing bad about it.
All right. Again, the next question is by Andres, and he is asking, should I focus on domain or on the content of the website more?
Content is the king. Yeah, that's how they say, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. You should focus on content. You should focus on your website the most, because at the end of the day, you can have the best domain name ever, and eventually you ain't gonna have any success because you're not focusing on your website, on your content. And because at the end of the day, you have to put in work. You gotta keep pumping out content and so on. You can, like I said, you can have the best domain name ever, but it doesn't really matter if you're not working on the content and if you're not working on your website itself. So everything all goes together into one piece, you know. You cannot ignore one or the other. But yeah, you should focus on the content.
All right. The next question is by Anthony, and it is for Hostinger. It says, he is asking which one is better, Hostinger or GoDaddy, and why?
Of course, I'm going to say Hostinger. I have a million reasons.
Definitely. Please go about sharing the reasons.
Because I work at Hostinger, first of all. No, actually, Hostinger is very... I'm gonna try to be like... I'm not gonna say that one is better than the other, but I'm gonna say one thing. I have used GoDaddy in the past. To be honest, I have some domain names registered at GoDaddy till this day, but those are from the later projects. Nowadays I use Hostinger. But I don't want to say anything bad about GoDaddy. It's not just how it works, you know. I have some bad things to say about them. I have to say a lot of good things about ourselves, but I'm not gonna go into that, you know. Yeah, but always choose Hostinger.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So moving ahead, let me see more questions here. All right. So Ishrar Khan has this question. It's there on the screen. If you buy a domain for 1 year, when it is the best time to renew it, do the hosting providers inform you when your domain is about to expire? And also, please explain the process.
Yeah, you're gonna be informed by email. I believe you're gonna receive at least a couple of email notifications to your inbox that your domain name is about to expire, and you should renew it. You can always set auto renewal. You know, once your domain name is about to expire, it will be renewed automatically. So if you want to avoid that hassle renewing your domain name manually, you can set it to be renewed automatically. So yeah, that's how it works. But yeah, I understand that sometimes when you register a certain domain name and you're not sure that you're gonna start working on that project, let's say after a couple of months, you just feel that it ain't gonna work, you know, you just wasted your money, you can disable auto renewal, and yeah, and you will not need to worry about that domain anymore. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So I see there's a follow-up question on the SSL certificates that we talked about. It's asked by Leonardo. It's on the screen, and it says, "Is it possible to get SSL certificate for free? If possible, how can I get it for free?"
I'm gonna how to tell that. I could show you a tutorial. At Hostinger we have a tutorial, but if you would use Google how to install free SSL certificate Hostinger, you're gonna find the tutorial. It should be the first in the search results, and it's gonna show you how to get let's encrypt if I'm not mistaking anything. I'm very bad remembering the titles and the names, so if I'm not mistaking it, it should be something like that, and you can check that tutorial. Sorry that I couldn't answer you the whole process, but I believe it's gonna be way easier to follow the tutorial than me trying to explain the whole process itself.
No problem. And Leonardo Hostinger has a lot of videos on their YouTube channel as well. Gvidas, you can share the channel link with everyone by clicking on call to action link, and probably they can check that out after the session as well.
Yeah.
So let me see other questions if we have any. So this question is asked by Kendra, and just give me a sec. All right, it's on the screen. It says, how long can my domain name have? So basically the length. Is there any specific length that people should follow? Best practice.
Oh yeah. In the best case scenario, it should be under 15 characters. It's the best case scenario. Yeah. Don't make your domain name too long. Like again, the same goes for not just domain names, for company names or whatever, because it's gonna be very difficult to remember it, especially if it's a domain name. And like I said, if someone finds your website very interesting and they have a difficult time remembering it, yeah, guess what? They're gonna have the same difficult time letting their friends know about it. So the best case scenario is to keep it under 15 characters. All
right. The next question is on your screen again. It says, what is the best way to secure a domain name? Is it also sort of, I'm not sure, is this question also around SSL certification, or we have more to add to this question?
The best way to secure your domain name, I would say, is to purchase it. Yeah, that's the end use. I'm gonna try to explain the whole process, the whole parts that I believe this question was for. I think that the best way to secure it, of course, you have to purchase it. You don't want to lose it, like I did. And later on, you should use WHOIS protection or personal information protection, so that you wouldn't start getting spam emails to your inbox and so on. And you want to keep your personal information private. You don't want to show it to anybody else, because yeah, privacy is very important nowadays. And yeah, if you're gonna use personal information protection, no one's gonna find your phone number, your details, your first name, last name, or whatever, you know. So yeah, always use that. And when you are building a website, like I said, I always recommend to use SSL certificates, because like I said, your website is gonna look more trustworthy. And yeah.
Great, thank you. The next question is again by Israr, and it's on your screen. It says, is it okay to get hosting from one provider and domain name from another provider, like hosting from Hostinger and domain name from any other platform?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's completely okay. It's a common practice. I have done this myself almost every single time, and I registered. I used to do that. Now I try to do everything in one place. That's it's at Hostinger, but yeah, you can register your domain name somewhere else, and you can have a completely different web hosting provider. But the thing is, you're gonna need to point your domain name to that web hosting provider. It's very simple process. It usually takes the whole propagation process. That's like the time until that domain name fully starts pointing to your web hosting. It can take up to 24 hours. Actually, if you are interested, we have videos at Hostinger Academy how to point a domain name. So just send the notification for Hostinger Academy. So yeah, the process is very simple, but it's completely okay. There's no issues about it.
Wonderful. So many questions we have answered here, and let's take one last question. It's by Ismail and it's on your screen. I'm having troubles understanding this question, so if you can sort of, read this out and sort of help him answer the question.
For school library website. Let me think. The best option would be .com, like always. But the new ones, the new top-level domain names like XYZ, .online, and .icu, they are the cheapest ones, so you could use them. But it's always better to get the real deal, the real thing, instead of trying to save some money, because later on you might regret it. Later on you're gonna pay it twice. Later on maybe you're gonna decide that you want to get .com because the previous TLD is not good enough anymore. So I always recommend people to go with .com if possible. The second best option is .net. And yeah, if your website is some type of organization, you could go with you could go with .org. Yeah, this one is very popular for organizations.
All right. So everybody, I hope we have answered all the questions that you have had, and that was the last question of the session. So Gvidas, before I wrap this session, anything that you would like to say to the audience?
Oh, thank you for watching. It was a pleasure to do this presentation. Hopefully I wasn't too boring or answered all the questions. Hopefully this information is gonna be useful. And in the chat you should see some discount coupons. Andrew said he would share it. In any case, you can use coupon code HA10 to get 10% discount off your purchase. It's like addictive, and not addictive, but I got used to saying this so much in the videos, like use HA10 to get 10% discount. So yeah, so thank you for watching. It was awesome, and thank you Designhill for this opportunity.
Wonderful. You said the coupon code is H8.
I'm just gonna type it right here.
Write down in the chat section. That would be easier for the audience to use it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that. All right, everybody, this brings us to the end of this wonderful session. This was indeed a value-packed session. I hope you guys loved this. Once again, I would like to thank Gvidas for taking out the time and sharing such insightful tips with all of us. But this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events like this lined up for the coming days. The next event is going to be about a panel discussion on customer experience strategies, tips, and innovation for 2021. The link will be in the chat. Nidhi, my team member, will be sharing the same. Also, if you have not registered yet, and if you want to register for future sessions as well, you can visit designhill.com/events. and you can see all the upcoming events that we have. To stay tuned and stay updated with events like this, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can also give us suggestions on the topic you would like us to cover, like today's event, and the speakers that you would want us to host. So the link again will be in the chat section. To watch this session and other wonderful events that we have done, you can visit our official YouTube channel, Designhill. The link again will be in the chat section. For all the business owners who are listening to this and wish to source high quality graphic designs and build their brand today, visit designhill.com. Also use the coupon code LMGM15, which is logo maker, a coupon code which you can avail 15% off on Designhill logo maker service. It's very easy to remember: LM logo maker, GM Gvidas, and 15 is 15% discount. So use that coupon code by 24th of February to avail 15% discount on our logo maker service. And also make sure to avail the offer that Gvidas has also shared with everybody. So on that note, I would like to say goodbye to everyone who joined us here today.
Bye.
Thank you so much once again for joining us. I hope to see you guys once again in the upcoming sessions. Till then, take care and stay safe. Thank you so much, Gvidas, for joining us once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.